Hi everyone, welcome back to Wilde Reads. My name is Dave. Today is the first video in a two-parter looking back at the best books of 2017. So let's get straight on with it. Roll the titles. Hi everyone, welcome back to Wilde Reads. As I said in the introduction, this video is the first of a two-parter in which I will list the best books of 2017, or what I think are the best books in 2017. Now there is a little disclaimer right at the start of this video. Not all of the books that you're about to see would have been published in 2017. Some of the books, because as you know, I do a lot of charity book shopping, and so a lot of the books that I read are backlist titles. So some of them have come out this year. Let's have a look. Yes, some of them have come out this year, and some of them have come out in previous years. So instead of, I suppose I should have really called this video the best reads of 2017. So I've picked out a dozen books which I have most enjoyed reading this year. Out of all of them, I think I'm going to finish the year on about 70. So I've picked out the best dozen. So let's get straight on with the books. How's everyone doing, by the way? Hope you've had a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. This is going out the day after Boxing Day, when of course Christmas will all be a distant memory, and we'll be counting down the days to 2018, in which I've got lots of great new videos for you. But the first book on the list is one I am clutching in my hand. Now the first book that I've chosen is the Gustav Sonata by Rose Tremain. This was a absolutely fabulous book. I read this back in, I think, July, just before I came onto BookTube, just before I started Wilde Reads, and it was the second title that I'd read this year from Rose Tremain. This is a great book. It's about a young man called Gustav, who grows up in a very small town in Switzerland, and he's lost, his father has died, and he's living with his mother, who's very cold towards him. And he meets a guy called, I'm going to have to refresh myself because it is a few months since I've read this book, but so Gustav's life is very lonely until he meets Anton. An intense lifelong friendship develops, but Anton fails to understand how deeply and irrevocably his life and Gustav's are entwined until it is almost too late. This is a fabulous, fabulous book, and it really did cement my love of Rose Tremain's writing. And since I've read this, I have collected a couple of others of titles of Rose Tremain that I do plan to read early in 2018. So the first book on the list goes through the Gustav Sonata by Rose Tremain. The second book on the list is one that for years and years and years I've been wanting to read. So this is a very old book, but it's a very old book, and it's one that's been on my radar for decades to actually get round to reading. And that is Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. Now you may, for those of you that watch Simon over at Savage Reads, you will know that Simon's love for this book knows no bounds. He recommends it to anyone that he comes across, and I think this was the title that kick-started his reading, if you like. So I eventually got round to reading it this year. It's fabulous. It's utterly, utterly fabulous, and I absolutely love this book. So I had no hesitation whatsoever in giving it 5 stars. The characters in this book are absolutely superb. I think I've said on my wrap-up that the characters, the horror that is Mrs. Danvers, will live with me for a very long time, and I will probably read this book again and again and again because I like it that much. It should be a very familiar story to you. There's been a couple of adaptations of this book as well, which I haven't got round to reading yet, but I think one of the adaptations of this is loitering on Netflix somewhere, so I will get round to reading it. So the second book on my best reads of 2017 goes to Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. Fabulous. The third book on my list of best reads of 2017 goes to Brooklyn by Colm Tóibín. Now this was the second Colm Tóibín book that I read this year, second or third. This is an utterly fantastic story. There is also a very, very good film to go with this as well. But as ever, with things like this. The book is far, far better than the film. The film's very good, but the book is, I just think that a book captures so much more atmosphere than a film could ever hope to, but that's just my personal opinion. This is set in the 1950s in a small town in Ireland, and it concerns a girl called Ellis Lacey. And it says it is Ireland in the 1950s, and for Ellis Lacey, as for so many other young Irish girls, opportunities are scarce. So when her sister arranged for her to emigrate to New York, Ellis knows she must go, leaving behind her family and home for the first time. Arriving in a crowded lodging house in Brooklyn, Ellis can only be reminded of what she has sacrificed. She is far from home and homesick. And just as she takes tentative steps towards friendship and perhaps something more, Ellis receives news which sends her back to Ireland. There she will be confronted by a terrible dilemma, a devastating choice between duty and one great love. I really thoroughly enjoyed this book, and this won the 2009 Costa Novel Award, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great introduction to the writing of Colm Tóibín, and I've read a lot of Irish writers this year, Maggie O'Farrell being one of them, William Trevor I've read this year, and Wright, to name but a few. Colm Tóibín, Brooklyn, is another book that I very much recommend. It's a fantastic book. He did write another one that I read this year as well, called Nora Webster, which almost made the list, but not quite. This, in my opinion, was a far better book. The fourth book to make it onto my best reads of 2017 is from an author that we've heard about already on this list. It's another book from Rose Tremain. This one is The Road Home. This concerns an immigrant recently arrived in the UK from, we never actually find out where he's from. I've just assumed that it's somewhere like Poland. Let's just say Poland, for instance. The character's name is Lev. He's a very likeable character. This is a really great book. Rose Tremain writes characters with such clarity and such detail. She really does draw her characters in front of your eyes, and they come to life and they shine and they live and they breathe. This one on my best reads of 2017. So Lev is on his way from Eastern Europe to Britain seeking work. Behind him looms the figures of his dead wife and his beloved young daughter and his outrageous friend Rudy, who, dreaming of the wealthy West, lives largely for his battered Chevrolet. Ahead of Lev lies the deep strangeness of the British, their hostile streets, their clannish pubs, their obsession with celebrity. London hands out the alluring possibility of friendship, sex, money and a new career. And if Lev is lucky, a new sense of belonging. Now, this novel didn't really end on a cliffhanger, but it did end with you hoping and praying for some more writing with these characters. So if anyone out there knows, if anyone's got the hotline to Rose Tremain, would someone tell her that she really needs to write a follow-up to this book? Because I, for one, and Vicky's read this book as well, and she very much enjoyed this. We really want to find out more about how Lev is getting on, and as a character, he's so memorable as a character. It's another quite brilliant book, and I'm now firmly massive Rose Tremain fan. And again, I've got a couple of other books of hers to read, as I think I've mentioned in this video already. So Rose Tremain, The Road Home. The next book on my list of best reads, I was going to say best books of 2017, but this is another title that didn't come out this year, and that is Catherine Hall, The Proof of Love. Now this won the first, I think I'm right in saying the first Green Carnation Prize, which was started by, or co-started by Simon over at Savage Reads. This was published by Portobello Books. It is and I think I read this A because Simon had recommended it as well, and B, I saw Lauren from Lauren and the Books reading this on the train on her way to, I think, her booktube holiday earlier in the year. This is a great book. This concerns a young man called Spencer Little, who is running away from something that has happened while he's been studying mathematics at Cambridge University, and he runs away and takes refuge on a farm up in Cumbria. So it says on the back, by the time the summer holidays begin, Spencer Little is keen to put the events of the past term at Cambridge behind him, and a remote village in the Lake District seems to offer the perfect escape. But it's not so easy to remain anonymous in a small community, and after striking up a friendship with a 10-year-old girl, Alice, Spencer also finds himself being drawn into other people's lives. As the summer heatwave intensifies and a web of complicity tightens around him, Spencer realises that he will eventually be forced to choose between loyalty and truth. This was a book that I absolutely lapped up. It was written in such a sensitive way. It's very much about love and friendship, and there's a real sense of place about it, and the timing and the characters are excellent in this book. So again, this was always in my mind to have this in my end of year list. And it's another thoroughly recommended book. That's The Proof of Love by Catherine Hall. The last book on this list, well, for this section of the video, I've still got my top 6, if you like. The last book is a non-fiction book, and this is The Diary of a Bookseller by Shawn Bythell. This is a very funny book, and it gives you a real good insight into what it's like to work in a bookshop, and especially a second-hand bookshop. The Diary of a Bookseller by Shawn Bythell. Now, I read this for Non-Fiction November and very much enjoyed it. It's a fantastic read. It's very funny. I do thoroughly recommend it. And we do have plans actually this year to go to Wigtown, which is Scotland's book town. In fact, when we went to Scotland in the autumn for our autumn break, up in the Highlands of Scotland, we weren't that far away from Wigtown, and if I'd have read this book before, we might have taken a little detour somehow to get to Wigtown. But that is on the list. We will be going to Wigtown sometime in 2018. But this book is a definite recommend. It's a recommended read. It's a really good book. So that brings me to the end of the first part. So that was the first part of the books, not necessarily books that have been published this year, but the best books that I've read this year. Now, the second part of this video will be out on Sunday, and I'm still in a dilemma to give, because I was going to put them in order. The books that you've seen already on this video are in no particular order. I haven't given them an order. They're just on the list as the best books. I would like to choose one of them as my book of the year, but I'm still in two minds which one to give it to. Well, it's actually between 3 books. Yeah, I'm having real problems deciding which book to choose. But we'll find out. We'll find out on Sunday. So I hope you enjoyed those half dozen books that I've already mentioned in this part 1. As I said, part 2 will be out on Sunday. All the links to the books you have just seen are in the show notes below this video. So without further ado, that brings me to the end of this brings me to the end of part 1 of this video. Whatever you're doing this week, enjoy your books. Have a great... Am I going to see you before... Of course I am. Of course I'm going to see you before the new year, because part 2 is out on Sunday. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.